This poem is called Happy. It's from a compilation called Never Ending Poetry that I put out in December. Clap along if you feel like a roof, your shingles layered upon themselves, scalloped and tessellated along the slope of your gables, black smears of pitch in the creases that evade notice from the boys getting out of the car. Clap along the slope of your gables if you feel like a shingle, layered over older shingle, nailed on the plywood decking and tired, haphazard misdemeanors of neglected, unobtrusive workmanship. Clap, clap, clap along if you feel unobtrusive and tired. An older shingle, elder wizened god of the forgotten, nailed to a Dollar City crucifix next to black smears of ash across the forehead of that weird kid in 4th grade. Clap your gables out of the car. Clap along if you feel like a roof, restless in your neglect, sending narrow streaks of rain down the back smears of pitch that crack at the seam, and invite the water, which is my insidious and fomenting hatred, to soften the wood and plaster above your head and seep and pool and drip, 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 crack along at the seam like a wily vengeance. You roof and you feel and you layer, mulberries rotting in the gutters, squirrels and catbirds wedging through loose soffits to the attic. Doors made of neglect. Had you ever considered to see what the angles of your viewpoint don't reveal? Clap layers of shingle and wood. Clap open-handed, cupped in applause at the symphony that has ended. The whole world elided off the banks of the ocean. The rain that doesn't drown, it rots. In the embolism of your enthusiasm, a clap that sways mercy aside, a clap that stains the ceiling below, a clap that loves each gust and clap your joy. The consequences meaningless, the receipt a clap, a motor of appreciation and gratitude, and clap along a roof. You feel you are, you clap, you roof, you are, you smear, you clap, you are, you clap, you are, you clap, you clap, you clap. And this poem is called He Knows I'm Gonna Stay, which is a line from a Mamas and the Papas song for all you old people out there. I know you're God. I have been to the Hatfield Sunoco 6 times this week and felt the clean light pierce the empty darkness around it. I have approached its gas pumps like a parishioner, early for mass to get the second row pew. My Camry saunters, slow and respectful underneath the wash of halogen light, the swarm of gnats, a mist of myrrh in the narthex. I watched your God imbibe the earth, its sullen maw scraping along the concrete, a fan belt loose in the car across the pump bay, tinted windows on a 14-year-old Honda Accord. Your God retches in silence and screams for congregants. I have seen it walk the aisles in search of combos. I have bowed my head to avoid the wrath of the bishops with their miters on backwards. I worry they see a ripe fruit in me, a Gushers family pack, a Starburst with no yellows, an overripe banana next to the mini USB chargers locked behind plastic walls. Have you knelt down at the tabernacle near the back? The refrigerated room housing the blood of your God's martyr, a Sonoma red under which you squat to genuflect, a slight wisp of your prayer as you read the labels of the microbrew IPAs. At the 6th station, my midnight visitation, oblique and scatterbrained, light lamp struck and damp drizzle hazed, the beacon beyond the trees calls your God to service. The altar boys burning frankincense outside before communion. A Domino's pizza box exchanged in the ceremony. Your God is the bread of life with a tart tomato sauce and cured meat. It calls the parish. It wails sirens from the state trooper's SUV. It burns myrrh in the transept as I enter. Still no congregant or devotee. I smell the bitter perfume ensconce the air. Putrid and holy, it is enough to make me question the wisdom of my purchase of a whatchamacallit. I approach the Keurig and place the chalice. Dark roast is my blood. Drink of it and remember me. It sputters and drips down the cardboard. Your God dribbles and spits. Your God has a plastic lid, and it leaves me wondering if he will hold on to the rim of the cup, and it is that uncertainty of design that makes your God so enticing. I have seen your God. I have been to the Hatfield Sunoco 6 times, and your God kept looking over at me and didn't care much at all, even though my hands trembled at the Keurig, my worry that my pants were too skinny, my hair too long, my shirt too ostentatious, my vibe too queer, my strokes too broad, my face too angular, my life too lived, my worry so misplaced, because at the altar I present my offerings. The priest looks up from her holy book and says, I'm so sorry it stinks so bad in here. I don't know what's going on. I bleached the whole fucking place. I have seen your God, and it wants what we all want. To fill up and be filled and get back on the road and go home, back into the darkness of a highway that follows the arc of deep hills, a road with hidden police, manifesting behind conifers, a road that is a way to process the majestic in silence, a road that no one considered lighting up.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back to another episode of Speak Your Mind. I am so happy you're here with us. And thank you to Brian Embers. Wow, I got goosebumps. Really? I really do have goosebumps. Yeah. You're speaking the type of poetry that I like to write about. That, like, has that sort of, it sounds flowery and nice, but you're getting a little jab in there. That's my favorite kind of poetry.
Good. I'm really happy.
Yes, I'm very happy about that. Yeah. So welcome, Brian Embers. So, Brian, this is the segment right now where we do a little writing challenge with our audience at home. And for those of you who've been following me for a while or following our show for a while, you know what to do. We're going to do a little bit of a brainstorm. We have a writing challenge. But first, before that, I like to ask all of our guests a question about what inspires them the most in their work. So what is it that inspires you the most in your work?
Oh, I think I sound like I have a mental disorder, but I hear voices in my head and I have to write it down. Yeah. That's really what it is. Yeah. I see a sunset and I go, oh my God, or I see a rainbow and I have to write something down. And it never becomes a poem about a rainbow. It's always about something else. But it's being open to and receiving and then expressing whatever weird inspiration is happening in the moment.
Do you do like the voice memo by your bed or post-it notes by your bed?
No, I do the iPhone text app, and I just start typing.
Are you good about every time you have an idea of writing it down? Okay, good. I don't feel so guilty.
No.
Yeah, because I get voices in my head too, and I think like so many times I'm like, I should be writing this down.
Yeah. Well, if the voices persist, then it's worthwhile.
They do persist. Yeah, but luckily, I always tell the voices, I'm like, okay, you're going to come back to me when I have a pen, when I'm sitting, when I'm able to write. And I just have been trusting lately that the ideas are going to come back instead of being so afraid I'm going to miss it.
Yep.
Yeah. But back to you, audience, who I love so much. So our writing prompt for today is to write a 5 to 10 line poem about vulnerability. And we always started off with a little brainstorm or brain dump. So for about a minute, we're going to brainstorm, and you know the way to do it. We just take a part of our journal, we get a blank page, we write down what our writing prompt is, vulnerability, and for just about 1 minute, you're just going to write any thoughts, feelings, impressions, memories, blah, 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 that comes to mind. The most important thing is that you're priming the pump, you're getting the creative brain working, so it doesn't matter what you're writing about. You can even doodle. But if you do have some impressions, feelings, memories come up, this is going to be your toolbox that you're going to use when you do go ahead and write your writing piece. So I'm going to ask Mike to put on the music. We have a little bit of concentration music in the back, and I'll talk you through it, so don't worry. And so all we're doing is we're just inviting all of our people at home to go ahead and write any thoughts, feelings, or emotions around vulnerability. impressions, can even be themes and titles. I like to write down titles of poems. That helps me out a lot. Sometimes if I just have the title, then the poem writes itself. And also sometimes in my brainstorm, I like to write down just questions, like probing questions, like, what is vulnerability? Or what do I feel when I hear that word? Or how do I feel? Or how do I interact? Or who do I know that reminds me of this? And a lot of times it's just non sequiturs, like, puppy, sunset. Because you never know the creative brain, what it's trying to piece together, what inspiration that is in the back there that wants to come out, that we don't always tap into until we have this moment where we're not thinking of our to-do list or thinking about making something great or having something that makes sense. We're just letting it be fuzzy. All right, excellent. All right, folks at home, we're going to have Mike take out the music. You can always pause the video if you want to brainstorm a little bit more or if you want to come back to the writing challenge. But if you want, you can go ahead and write out your 5 to 10 line poem now on vulnerability. And you do have the option of emailing it to me at speakyourmind@myyahoo.com, and maybe eventually I'll read it. And of course, you can go on our Facebook group. It is Speak Your Mind. It's a private group. You just have a couple questions to ask, but I let everyone in who is there for the right reasons. And you can post it there as well, or videos of yourself. I'd love to know who you are. So Brian and I already wrote our poems on vulnerability. And so I like to go first because I like to save the best for last. So I'm going to share mine first with you. All right. Oh, let me get to it. All right, vulnerability. To stand up in front of the crowd. Voice crack, shake boom, sweating on the inside, inspiration on the outside, all ears a listening, how to bear the echo of mine own voice, a stutter and a stumble that not one person dare point out, a bravery with no medals, but a chance to speak my mind. All right, what do you got?
I kept writing. I went more than 5 to 10 lines, so I'll just take a stanza.
Which is okay, folks at home. If you go over, that is a good thing.
Yeah, I just I was inspired. I kept going, but I'll read the second stanza because it's, I think, good on its own.
You can write the whole thing. Read the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I tell you I love you because I accept death, but I do not welcome her. She has a stink on her breath. Old lady perfume and baby powder in her clothing. She walks into the sun without a license, and she doesn't care about what's in her pantry or if there's still Prel in the medicine cabinet from 1982. I jump onto a carousel horse because it is beautiful and I accept how silly it looks. 6'3" and nearly 50 years old on a big plastic horse, hobbing up and down in circles as I wave to you one horse ahead. The music is terrible, and the thrill only a migrant bird, echoing the calls of the New Orleans blue jay I heard in the trees in Marigny. I rip down the walls of my old house to rebuild and revive this gorgeous old place because I accept that a nail will likely catch my hand and scrape deep into my skin and hurt for days and leave a deep scar, which is fine, because the scar I had from middle school when I let the boys rub an eraser up and down the top of my hand to prove to them that I wasn't a pussy, had finally faded out of existence after 35 years of seeing it and remembering that chorus was not a safe space for a boy who liked beautiful things in a small town where beauty was, well, beauty was seen as something else entirely. But I still cannot reach out and touch your face to see if you will rest in the cradle of my hand. Decades ago, in a shallow field that is lousy with weeds and grass, ticks not yet awake enough to grab hold of my sock as we walk down to a river and talk about movies and video games. Because then I was afraid of death. But even more, I was afraid of the bitter taste running down my throat when my palm reaches your cheek and you flinch and ask me, what am I doing?
Wow. You packed a lot in there. I like
did.
that.
I don't know what happened.
Well, I love that, I love the juxtaposition of, the vulnerability that everyone knows, the palm touching the cheek and the person flinching and that fear of rejection, and the tick on your sock. because I just had Lyme disease beginning of December, first time ever, which is surprising because I was a big hiker, and it really like kind of knocked me out.
Did it
like
catch it early?
they,
medicine and...
yeah, early enough.
Okay,
you know, but it was something where I was like, wow, like it does. It makes you think of like this little tiny thing can take you down.
Yeah.
And the aches and the pains, like, and it was so emotional for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of it not knowing what it is. But
Exactly.
I love that you brought in those two elements, that sort of like that the personal vulnerability, but also the nature vulnerability, the how it makes me think of Sting, how fragile we are.
Yeah.
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 And for our folks at home, so the reason I do 5 to 10 lines is because it's accessible. So for anyone who's maybe a little bit intimidated about writing or maybe have a problem getting started, anyone can do 5 lines. So if you start with 5 lines, you usually want to go to 10. And I love that you brought in more because that's the whole goal, is to keep writing and writing where you're so inspired you don't want to stop.
Right.
So it's not to limit you, it's just to kind of have a jumping off spot. So if you wrote more than 10 lines, more power to you. But don't feel like, you know, you can't do it if you don't have a long poem. And so that was sort of my goal, is to make sure that everyone feels successful in their writing. And you can kind of pack a big punch in a small amount of lines, kind of like haikus and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to learn that talent.
The haiku talent.
I don't know how to be short.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good challenge for you. Next time I have you on the show, I'll do that. And so Brian Embers, he is the host of Open Mic Surgery in New Haven, which I love. And the reason I chose this writing prompt for you is because I love how you created the space. And I'm a little bit partial because I used to do an open mic in that space too. It's at Never Ending Books, Tuesday night at 6:30. It's a nice, short, sweet night, 6:30 to 8.
Yeah, we bumped it up to 7 to allow people to have dinner beforehand.
Oh, right.
So we're starting at 7 and we go till about 8 or 8:30.
Yeah, so 7 to 8, and Never Ending Bookstore, and I did an open mic there, and it was about like going raw and people listening to you and being heard. And so when I came to your open mic, I love that it still had that energy there. And I think that there is something to be said about those good old-fashioned poetry open mics where people are just reading their poetry.
Yeah, very much.
No show, no pomps, no. And I love the show. You know, I love the, get on the stage and bring it on.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of open mics, which are bar scene, that kind of, what's the place in New Haven? That's the Beatnik.
Cafe 9?
Cafe 9,
okay,
yeah.
Yeah,
there's something fun to that, to be able to kind of like hush a crowd and like have all that. But there's nothing like being able to really just step in front of an audience that is listening.
Yeah.
It is a vulnerability that I think that everyone needs to experience as an artist. Because I know for me, sometimes I can get caught up in just the poems that are the showstoppers and not some of the stuff that are digging through maybe some more of the sentimental parts.
No, absolutely. I love the environment the environment is there because of the people who come in. I mean, really, I showed up to host, and I'm a lot more performative here than I am at the reading at the open mic because I am oftentimes reading things for the first time, I enjoy the folks who come off the street and who have never even thought about reading poetry and who just sit in the back for a little while and then they say, oh, I do have something on my phone, and then they come up and they read something amazing and you're just like, that's incredible. That's so great that I think everybody has, not everybody, but a lot of people have a poem in them. They have one on standby, they have one on their phone, they have one, like hanging out. And to have a space where someone feels comfortable enough to say, cold turkey, I've never done this before, but here's a poem I have on my phone, is just awesome.
I agree, and that's kind of, my inspiration of doing this show is because I do open mics, and the people who come up to me the most are the people who are like, oh, I wrote a poem, but I'm too shy, or like, oh, I really want to write, and so I'm like, but you can do it. If you have a poem or you want to write, it means it's in there.
Right.
Like you said, everyone has a poem within them. Before we wrap up, I just want to touch base on your handle, Poetry for Cowards. Oh. So that's your social media, your Instagram handle.
Yeah.
What made you come up with that? Because I love that name.
That came from a poem. It came from the fact that some jerk on Instagram has at Open Mic Surgery already, and they're not using it. And they're just sitting on it. So whoever you are, just get rid of it.
Your name.
Just give it to me.
Give
I want it back.
Yeah.
So Open Mic Surgery was taken. And I have a poem from like 1999 or 2000 that I had written when I was feeling particularly kind of hard. I was being very self-critical, and I was really kind of didn't like the idea of what poetry does. It can offer you an easy out to express something directly to somebody you're feeling something for. And it can be that kind of like little subterfuge, passive aggressive. And so I wrote a poem called All Poets Are Incredible Cowards.
Yeah.
And I went to town.
Love it.
And
I love it.
So the Instagram handle, poetry, the number 4 and cowards, poetry for cowards, is where I post my poetry end of things.
Awesome. Poetry for Cowards and open mic surgery in New Haven, Tuesday nights, 7 to 8.
Yep.
Last quick question. What tips or advice do you have for our folks at home to get them writing?
Just write. It does not matter. Quality does not matter.
Yep.
It really doesn't. I have written some of the most execrable nonsense in the world, and I still hold on to it. And I think maybe I can tweak this, but really, it's just getting it out. That's the important thing.
You heard it from Brian Embers, and Brian, you're going to do some more poetry for us, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Right now. All right. So don't go anywhere at home. Stay tuned for more Brian Embers, and we'll see you next time on Speak Your Minds.
Okay. I wondered aloud, when was the moment each night that I no longer hold you in my arms, the way I do when we're ready for sleep and we tell the lights to turn themselves off? You are a restless mover in your sleep, who would fall off the bed if you were alone, rolling like bramble in the desert. So I considered quietly and to myself that if you were alone ever again, I would make for you a mattress in the shape of a globe, like a planet in The Little Prince, the inside of which I would capture a miniature black hole, the kind that Stephen Hawking talks about so much, and trap it in the mattress planet's core, so that no matter where you are while you sleep, you are on top. And you can roll through the hemispheres of the bed and circumnavigate the world you sleep upon. Your great Magellanic voyage through your vibrant dreams that rock the ship through currents, the sheets, the algae, and the kelp, the throw blanket curled into a reef, the duvet, the drifting continents. It would take the harnessing of the universe to make right the affront of you being alone ever again, without my arms wrapped around you, the din of traffic on the Quinnipiac Bridge, melting into the wind of the night outside the bedroom window. And this last poem is called A Colloquium on the Rabid Dog He Never Met. I was told there would be pressed flowers between the pages of this Encyclopedia Britannica that weaved through the rack mount shelves on either side of the fireplace. A VHS copy of An American Tale, watched brand new, to be amazed at the crispness of the virgin tape, and to wonder and anticipate, how many times will I watch Feifel Mouskowitz's Immigrant Journey before the image dulls and I will notice? How many licks to the center of a Tootsie Roll pop? When will I know that I'm smart? What day did our relationship become untenable? I stiffed the bartender a tip because he took too long to ask me what I'd like. Pale octopus squeezing through the seams of the aquarium. Your Pokemon cards are worthless because you're not good at Craigslist. Everything is available, but can you believe you are worth the ask? When I was a boy, my father was shaving, but I had to pee. And even though I tried, I couldn't because my dad was right there. He told me that men pee to assert dominance, and it would be easier to go when others are there when I get older. Twice this week, the restaurant bathroom was crowded. I am waiting, Dad, for the day I am superior to everyone else because I really have to go.